It's an intention. It's so sweet. But it's an intention that doesn't carry a whole lot of, I have the power to change and bring goodness here. I have the power to bring love here. Love is power. You have to be able to hold your power if you're going to bring it here. When you go home tonight, play with it a little bit. And it's something you need to do alone. Even if you're really close with your spouse or something, this you need to do by yourself. Because you will totally be affected if anybody else is anywhere near you. Even if you think you have a guardian angel that's watching you, it will change how you do this. So pretend you're in a bubble. Put up a dark bubble of just like, you know that mirror kind of stuff where you can see out but nobody can see, and kind of windows? Temporarily put up a nice big silver bubble around yourself. Say, okay, this is my private space in the universe. Nobody, even source, nobody can watch this, right? Play with the position of power. Play with the voice intonation. I am God. I am God. I am God. Play with it. Feel the difference in your attitude. Feel the energy behind it by how you say it. It'll be a long time. Guaranteed, because I still have a hard time doing it. Going into full decree, where I fully allow my embodiment of my rishi that says, of course I know, and I know that. It's like no big deal on that level. There's a power that comes in, a power that I know is intimidating to other people who don't understand that stance. That's why I don't usually do that. It's kind of fun when you get a bunch of people who just let their rishis come in, their rishi level here. Yeah, here we all are again, manifestation, playing around with densities. Yeah. Did you forget today? You really got like sucked into the patterns, didn't you? The conversation's totally different. Cool. we should do that. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Before we, yes. We'll have a rishi party. We'll do some dialogue. Yeah. To see if we can get our higher self to talk to each other. And in so doing, remind us that we're there. Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny. When we went into that was spontaneous. I've never talked about that one before, quite that way. I saw about 5 of them hop in the fields. There were 3 over here and 2 over here, where all of a sudden, you can see a rishi, by the way, when you get up to about 6 strand activation, you can start to see them come into the field. They look like, first, a streak of light that comes down like a pillar, and then they take on a shape, which is 2-dimensional. It's not 3-dimensional, because they're gaseous substance. You're gaseous substance at that level. But they tend to take on a shape that has like kind of a pointed head-like thing and shoulders. It's almost like a Casper with a hat on. This is the form that in this dimensional frequency band, when you take a being from that level and put its energy here and look at it from here, that's the image it looks like. Do they look like that to themselves? No. That's part of the hologram here. But you can see that when they come into somebody's field, once you have a little bit of the D6 or even the D6 subharmonics on in the lower strands, you can see them sometimes standing behind people. Or sometimes you'll see 3 or 4 of them, which means rishi party. There means here's a rishi, and some of the other people around are conversing about something. Something's going on, you've got a lot of support with you. So we'll try to do a rishi party before we leave, just to see what happens. I've never done one. But I spend a lot of my time, to be honest with you, like what's it like to be in my head, walk around in my body. I can be very 3D when I try real hard. Because if I don't try real hard, I get very spacey with 3D. Like clocks disappear and I honestly don't see them because they're out of my frequency range. I tend to walk around with my astral body feet at my hips, which means I feel like I'm numb and I don't have anything below the hips, which is really bad when you're driving a car. There are certain things that come with your orientation to yourself. Most people are used to being stuck in here. They don't know what it means to have your consciousness stuck up here. Or all of a sudden you find the focus going out your eyes isn't here anymore, it's over here. And your eyes are totally blurry. And you can't see here, but you can see here. These are some of the things that when you start to integrate higher levels of self, your perceptions change. This is where you'll start to see all the busy stuff that's going around in the middle dimensional fields. This is where you'll start to see some really scary stuff that you wish you didn't know either. When you start to look at people in human bodies, and we go through, we're in 3D perspective, you walk down the street, and everybody's a human, and isn't it nice, they're all human. When you get D4 fully turned on, your 4th strand, all of a sudden, you'll think you're losing your mind if you don't know what, you realize what's happening. Because you'll walk down the street and be in an elevator with some people, and you'll look, and you'll see a human face with sometimes a reptile face inside. Other times you'll see something that you have no sometimes you'll see what looks like a glowing human-type being inside. You'll start to realize that not all people in human bodies are human. This is one of the great surprises that you discover. And this is what goes on. How do I know I am? the thing is, right now, you don't for sure. But the thing is also, even if you're not, that's okay. You are still a being with free will choice. It doesn't matter which matrix you came out of. Originally, you're all from pure matrices. If you happen to discover that you incarnated out of an Anunnaki, fallen soul matrix, you're in a human body, and the only way you got there is because you entered the Emerald Covenant to get away from them, to get back into the light. So you're no less than a human being. Same thing with the draconian people or the reptilian people. It's all about intention, not about the form. But when you start to go into running currents, which are opening perceptions, don't be surprised with what you see. One of my first rude awakenings was, nobody talked to me about this first. And somebody knocked at my door, and I opened the door, and it was hello, and it was a person I met once before, briefly. Looked at the person, and my eyes did something really strange, where all of a sudden I saw the person, and I got a real quick overlay behind it, and there was a large lizard standing there looking at me. And he's going, hello, can I help you? And I'm going to go, Barbie's going, you get it, I'm losing my mind, what is wrong with me? And they had a nice conversation with me later. That was a demonstration of the realities that are taking place here. When you become a healing person, who's going to facilitate healing in other people, and you're going to turn on your higher perceptions, you're going to be surprised at what you see sometimes with the people who come to you. You may even find it very surprising to find out you're married to one, or one is your brother, or your mother. You may start to discover the reality of the people, and that's okay. I mean, they may have forms that are completely, who knows what they are. They wouldn't know either, because they're identifying with being human just like you are. You need to cultivate love, where it doesn't matter what form. It doesn't even matter what the history or the agendas were. What matters is keeping your field integrity in case there's any danger to either of you. But loving and being able to transmit your total love, like doctors take a vow. Whoever you are, I, as a doctor, am vowing to help you. If somebody is brought to me that is sick, I will do my best to heal that person unconditionally. I will not play favorites. You need to be able to do this as a healer. If you happen to come in and somebody has a draconian field possession, even if they are human, and you see these big nasty things hanging out in their auric field, and you go, oh boy, I know a really good healer in Miami. I'd like to know more. The first instinct will be to want to run. Especially if it's something you haven't encountered before. That's when you ask for guidance from your own self. Do I gently refer them to somebody who's more competent in dealing with this? Because sometimes it will be over your head. The 11 dark avatars, you better be at least 37 strands to deal with. Okay, if you're ready to go with 37 strands, you'll be able to take one on and win. Without that, they will play games with you, and unless you're fully awakened at least to 12 strands, you're going to get jerked around and end up in your field. So there's things in healing that you're not going to learn about in medical school that you do learn about in Kathara healing, because it's multidimensional, which means you need to be mature enough to face the realities that exist in the multidimensional spectrum. Just like there are people or beings here that are stages of development or lack of development, where they can do order-effective things. And it's not that they're bad beings. They do bad things because they don't know any better than we know. Or sometimes they do know better, but they do it anyway. They're working out some personality problems. We have this in an interdimensional scale. You need to be aware of it. You need to know how to handle yourself with absolute unconditional love. But love is not being a sheep. Love is not being a pathetic little person. I just love you so much, you kick me and step on me and kill me a million times, and I still love you, keep kicking me, see I wear a sign. Okay, this isn't love. It's what we've been taught, but it's not real love. Do you think God will put up with that nonsense? I say, excuse me. You and I are one here, by the way. You and I, there's no difference between us, but you forgot that. And you're not being very nice to me right now, are you? You're trying to teach yourself some lessons of remembering. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. If you're going to be nice to me, I will be nice to you. If you're not going to be nice to me, I will simply hold my fields in integrity and let you bounce yourself off my walls until you figure out it doesn't work that way. See, this is what we're doing with the stance we take. It's tough love. It's saying, we are not abandoning you at all. We are here, but our fields are unshakable and uncompromisable. No, you won't run us around, jerk us around, nor cause harm to us. We will not give you our power to do that. However, when you get to the point where you want to be nice and you want to work cooperatively and lovingly, we have never abandoned you. We are here and will always help to facilitate that. That's the difference between wind love and God love. Okay? You can be gentle and sweet and nurturing and be sweet and loving people, the female type love that's associated with females. You can also be stern and tough if somebody's out of control and they need help directing their energy. Fathers used to take this stance, while mothers would take the nurturing patch on the head, make you feel better, how you feel bad because that is a tough guy. And Dad would show love by setting limits. He said, excuse me. No. You're not going to do that. These are the consequences. There is no less love in the stance that fathers used to take, and now it's getting more blended. But there's no less love in that stance. He's saying, your energies are out of control right now. This is going to cause you misery if this continues, if you expect to get along in this world. If you won't listen to reason, you will have consequences to show you. There is a necessity of tough love. So if we know both of those, when we go into healing, we're much better prepared to handle ourselves like grown-ups. Instead of like people who say, I think it's neat to be a healer or something, not source or anything else, move through me. It's a growing process. Now, when we get into the phase currents, 148, it's graphically classical. On page 148 in the book, which is 85 in the course, this shows you combined triadic currents. Whereas the combined triadic current that you will need to use to activate a full grid phase current. We call the phase currents, like we said, they have one density, 3 dimensions. You have your telluric current that goes with density 1. Telluric phase 1 is D1, telluric phase 2 is D2, and telluric phase 3 is D3. Then there's the duratic currents. Then there's the toric currents that go with dimension 7, 8, 9, the oversoul level. Then there's the Maharic currents. Now, to get a current to activate in the body is an interesting process. To get D4 frequency into the body, you need to use the pale silver frequency to open the seals in the body that keep the separation between your density 1 and density 2 frequencies that your body is made out of. You also need to trigger its release by using 1 octave higher. If you're trying to activate a D4 current, remember I talked about bass tone, overtone, and resonant tone. And then every 3 step goes that way. Bass tone, overtone, resonant tone, skip to the next harmonic. Bass tone, overtone, resonant tone, skip to the next harmonic. You take D4, which is the bass tone in density 2. To activate it, you have to skip up to the bass tone in density 3, which would be 4, 5, 6, skip. You'd have to use 7, dimension 7 frequency, to open the 4th dimensional frequency in the body, and you have to use as the carrier wave the pale silver Maharic current. So the combined triadic currents are the combinations of frequency you need to use to get the opening of that current to happen within your body. This diagram here gives you a list of what they would be. Yeah, I figured that out. Okay. You know what helps tremendously is that graph that shows the 15-dimensional structure. You can simply count up. 1, 2, 3, skip. 1, 2, 3, skip. Okay. If you want D1, D4, D7, you trace them up that way. So this will help too. For phase 1 of the telluric current. The telluric current phase 1 would have the pale silver. It goes with 11 and 12 dimensional frequencies. Your Maharic carrier wave. You would have D1, red, and D4, jump 1 up. Remember, D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6. So you're doing the octave up would be 3. You run those together, and you can activate the current in the body. And this goes all the way up. These are the combinations of the currents. Now, we're already running some combinations of these as soon as we start bringing pale silver in. As soon as we start activating the Maharic current, we start to amplify and begin to build the toric phase currents, which allows the duratic phase currents the opportunity to plug in. If these weren't activating naturally within the body because of running the Maharic frequency, you wouldn't be able to bring the next level in because there's nothing to ground it into. It's like frequency from up here to coming down here needs a similar vibration. It has to have a similar but compatible vibration to anchor it, and then it will bring it in to flow. It's like having a receiver for a transmitter. And these currents are the currents that are receiving the higher currents that are going to activate in the body by activating these. So the rate phase 1 is pale silver, green, and violet. There's a certain process in the body. You move different colors, which are the frequencies, into different parts of the anatomy that open and release the current. The fun part is once it's open, you play with it. You build it in the heart chakra, which is connected to your astral field, your astral level, the D4 level of that bubble around you. You're filling it with current. And once you get a ball of it built in the heart chakra where you can feel it, then you learn to use your axiotonal lines that run down your arms. And you realize you have little chakras, little vortices on the palms. And most of the time, unless you've done healing before, they have seals on them, which are like masking tape over the bottom mouth. Okay? Not like a lid that's screwed on really tight. It's more like a barrier that you can pop through. And you learn to take the current here, push it down the arms, get that push strong enough where it pops the seals on the hands. That gives you the ability to transmit live interdimensional current. And the higher current you go, when you start going up into these currents, the more you will feel it. At first, it's very, very mild for most people. Some people get like really itchy or tingly palms when it starts doing it. But for most people, it's real subtle. The breath is the builder of frequency. If you just kind of breathe a little bit, your regular breathing pattern, and you say, I need to draw frequency. Where's my frequency? I can't get my frequency in. There's a synchronization that takes place. Draws frequency in, pushes it out. There's a push-pull dynamic. So even when you're going to push energy inside of your body, if you want to pull it up from where it's core, you don't go, I expect it to come this way. You pull it out. Your breath is your tool for regulating the in and out, or the expansion and contraction of energy in the body. It's how you move energy from one place to another. So if you want to build a strong current, what you need to do is first activate it, which we'll do soon. Then you need to build that current in the body, and that's where the breath comes in handy. That's why all of the Eastern religions used to teach the importance of controlled breathing. The slower the breath, the more current you can actually do. You don't have to do this to run a decent amount of current, enough for healing. But if you really want to bring in current, what you would do is simply sit comfortably somewhere and first get into a space. You cut your breathing by half. You begin to feel how that feels in your body. You feel a little spacey, usually at first. You're used to this tighter focus. You're changing your brainwave patterns when you do this. Cut it by half, and then cut it by half again. So it's very slow. When you take an inhale, real slow, you're allowing more energy to come in on that breath. You get of energy, but it's like a little spurt that you grab in. So when you're breathing faster, you're getting little spurts, but you're not getting as much energy. This is why if you want your body to last longer, slow your breathing. We are actually breathing 2/3 faster than what we originally did because of the genetic distortions we have. We get less oxygen by doing it. Actually, it does a really weird thing. We get less oxygen in one way, it's less absorbable oxygen, because we get an overflow of oxygen shoved in too fast where the body can't pull it. So you actually get, it's like oxygen intoxication. Weird. You get a lot in, but there's not enough space for it to synthesize, and as soon as, before the body can do that, you're throwing it out again. So you're actually taking in oxygen and not using a lot. The body rhythms have been changed by the DNA distortions that were made. And if we're going to be able to really strengthen our fields, if you want to increase your longevity, you can begin to take some conscious control over first your breathing. Through your breathing, you can learn to control your heart rate if you really wanted to. Now I kind of let my heart do its own thing, be what it is right now, knowing that it beats about 2/3 faster than what's healthy for a human being. Our body temperatures are much higher than what they used to be when our DNA was working the right way. Our bodies burn out fast this way. We used to have thousands of years of lifespan, even when the grids were damaged on a 10-code pulse where we couldn't fully transmute. We would still live thousands of years. We live almost 100 now. It's because we don't get the energy in our body anymore to sustain us. When we begin to run currents. You are learning to breathe again. You're learning to breathe energy like it used to be natural for our species. And you also need to learn coordination between, and it's not hard, just you want to bring energy into the body from down below you. Inhale it. You want to collect it somewhere. You hold it there. And decide where you want to put it. We have an image of something you're trying to get to a part of a chakra or something. If it's up, you push it up. You can use the push-pull. Now sometimes it's stylized push-pulls, where you can actually do the reverse of that. What it just did, like draw a current up. You can actually draw a current down this way, push it in there, which is actually feeding the earth rays, which is good to do sometimes. But if you want to basic sustain your body and basic learn how to run your currents for healing, you use the breath, draw it up, and you use your heart chakra, your astral field, as a collection point. That's where you're going to collect the energy until it builds enough charge to do something with it. Because you can use little bursts of energy, but they're not going to do a whole lot if they don't have some strength behind them. You're building charge. So when we're running currents, we will learn to first activate the current in the body, and breathe it in, mix it with the energy coming up, the pale silver coming up from the bottom, and the other ones, they're going to come down this way and expand in the heart chakra. We're going to use frequency blending in the heart chakra that mixes the combined biotic current. So you have it in a ball that will look like a pale silver, violet, green ball of frequency. And once you can feel, if you can actually breathe the energy into this enough where you can feel it like a weight. Not an uncomfortable weight. You feel the presence of this ball in there. That's when you really have a nice quantity. You can do this without getting to that quantity of energy. And usually it takes a while to build it where you feel it like a ball sitting there, unless you've worked with healing currents before, to some degree. You probably won't be able to feel the fullness of what that can be like tonight, but you'll get the idea. Because you'll start to feel the activations taking place, and you'll start to form the durated ball in the heart chakra. Then you'll learn to push it down, use the breath to build a momentum, and push it down through the palms. And there's a little pop that if you hadn't had your seals popped out in the palm chakras, you'll feel the pop. There's a wonderful analogy to the pop. Go back to the crucifixion story. Pulling those nails out of the hands that are on the cross. This is exactly what it's doing. We'll talk more about that in the roundtables workshop. And there's a very, very interesting crucifixion story that goes with the real crucifixion story. But for now, pull out the nails and let the energy flow. And that's what the little pop does, simply till the energy is strong enough to move. Let it move out the palms. And then you build it in the palms. Because you can let it move out, but if you didn't build a full flow of current, it's going to get a little bit out, and there's like a spark that went, and then there's nothing behind it. So you're not going to be able to sustain and transmit frequency for someone, but anyone. So you're going to build it as balls of energy in the hands. And so you have fuzzy balls of energy in the hands. And once they reach a certain level of fuzziness, that's when you're ready to transmit. There's also a way to transmit this energy. And this is one thing I have not seen anybody practice on this planet what people do in the Kathara system. And it amazed me because it's so common knowledge from ancient days. Simple electromagnetics. Which hand do you use for what? This comes to simply understanding what your chakras are doing. On your right hand, you have an electrical transmitting chakra here. And on its back, you have its counterpart, magnetic. There are two sparks. Let's go to the diagram that shows this. This is on the image. It is a diagram that shows this. Right, this one is on, let's amplify. Right. It's under 55. Okay, on page 190 in your books, it shows here what I'm talking about with the palms. The chakras in the palms are just like the chakras that run through your body, where they look like little bow ties, or two little cones linked together at the end. You have a cone, wide end, sticking out both sides of the hand, and inside the palm is a tiny little crystal seal that would be like that bow tie. Now see these hand positions. The hand positions in Kathara healing are important because if you aren't aware of the hand positions you're using, you're going to be pulling different currents than you realize. So you're not going to get as specific of a current as you think you are. Now, you have this hand transmitting. Let's say you activate it. You get frequency coming out here. That is immediately going to set up a back draw. That means you're activating the seal in the center, so it's going to affect both of them. As you're transmitting here, this one's going to suck energy. Where's it sucking it from? Here, the three-dimensional unified field. All of a sudden, you're not just transmitting pale silver, green, and blue, or green and violet, creating phase one current. You're combining it with E3 yellow current. All of a sudden, you've contaminated your currents, which means they're not going to work as strongly as they did. Okay, if you're transmitting down your arm, right, you have a chakra here, okay, it's like the bow tie, like the ones on the drawing. There's a crystal seal in the center. You're sending the energy down. Now, this is the frequency that you're specifically picking, the higher frequency. You want to keep it strong enough to affect the template. Runs down your arm, this crystal seal has to come out, the transmitting into the chakra. It activates the seal, which activates the back on the hand as well. This is the magnetic one that draws frequency. This pushes, this pulls. As you're pushing, you're pulling energy from here. This is third dimensional level. You're pulling not the radiant current anymore. You're mixing it with telluric current from density 1, which means you've contaminated your current, which simply means you're reducing the effective charge to that current to the point where it probably will not be able to access the template. So what we always do in healing applications, and we do it in what are called Melchizedek cloister ordinations, which are transmissions that assist persons in the process. When we do our ordination system, it's not just that people can be ministers. It's getting certain transmissions of energy that help the frequencies to activate more quickly and in harmony with each other. Now, in healing applications or in transmission for, doing the ordinations, we have always, it's funny, because before I had any of the books and before the information was given to me from the plates, I remember they said, oh, you're giving ordinations now. What do you mean? How do we do that? You ordained me. I don't remember how to do this. They told me in the middle of a workshop that I was to offer at the end of that workshop, ordination. I didn't even remember consciously that I used to do these all the time in Egypt. But as soon as it was time, I offered the thinking one, "My will be thy will, let me be a vessel for thy good work. I'm here, what do I do?" A part of me just moved through, and it was me. And it was a part that remembered from its time frame. Went right into this posture. The left hand over the back of the right hand. Why? The left hand is the reverse of this. It has magnetic chakra here. This is the one that's drawing energy, and it transmits out the back. What happens when you put the two magnetic ends of the magnet together? The two positive charges, or the two negative charges. They go boom, and they push each other away, right? They block. If you went like this, you'd simply be drawing more in from your palm chakra here on this hand, throwing it through the back of this hand, into the back of this hand, and out this hand, you still have a contaminated current. So because you take this palm with its magnetic polarity, or a negative charge, let's say, put it on top of the other negative charge, you're creating a frequency interface field, a void zone that blocks the current from flowing this way. So what's coming in is what you pulled in this way and through the deep planetary grids, the specific current that you're trying to activate, that's what's going to come out of the pump. Because you don't have the hand on the back of it. Because you don't have the chakra on the hand pulling the energy you don't want. You have the hand on the back of it to make sure you're only getting the current that you're trying to aim for. This is one of the things that sticks out as far as I've not seen another healer anywhere know this. And it's very basic. Yes, in the book. All this is in the book. Yeah, this diagram is on page, almost out of the most charts, I think 190 something on the bottom. Now, when we're activating currents, we'll be doing that soon. I don't know if do we do breaking at night or not? I don't have to. It's up to people. We don't do it evening break. Before we go into this, it's going to be probably another, how much do we have? I would go for 45 minutes. Do you want a short break before we go into 45 minutes of heavy stuff?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we'll just take it and wrap it up so we can. We're going to be on the floor, and we're going to be,
I think it's 3 for like 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to get to 3 first, because that amplifies everything so you can do it. Got it. Are you ready? Phase 1 current. Listen, this is my favorite one. Can I read this one? You like this one? Sure. Before we go into the technique, I want to talk a little bit about it, at least some basic components of when you activate the current and you're getting prepared to do a healing facilitation. You're going to activate the current through the process that we'll be going through in a minute. We're going to collect it in the heart chakra, which is directly connected to your astral field. You're going to form something called the Doritic sphere. It's a Doritic ball, if you like. It's a ball of the Doritic phase 1 current, which will be the D4 current combined with the D7 current combined with the D12 heart current carried away. It will be a ball that you form, and it's part of the procedure that you'll hear it. You just follow the steps that are given to activate it. You'll build it as a Doritic ball in the heart chakra, and once you get enough energy in there, you can feel a bit of substance to it. Then you'll open the channels that run down the arms, which are sets of axiotonal lines that will carry those frequencies. They're axiotonal lines, but also meridian lines. Now, axiotonal lines, we didn't talk about too much. They're simply vertical lines. There's 12 primary axiotonal lines in the body. Each one carries one specific dimensional frequency. The Shamish ones are 12 and 11, and they run down the central vertical column. They form the main vertical current in the body that you see in the chakra diagram and all of that. So when we're activating the arms to bring that current from the astral field and the heart chakra into something you can do with here, you have to open the channels in the arms and then project it down and form the balls in the hands. There's also another way of induction, and this is a way that once you can build a lot of energy in your field, because you're used to running currents and you start to really build and your DNA is activating faster, you can do non-specific induction. This would be specific induction, where once you have the balls, then you apply them to whatever type of healing or wherever you're going to put that energy, which we'll get into as we close this thing when we do the 6-step client facilitation session, where you find out once you got it activated, when you do it. But there's 2 ways to induce frequency into the person you're assisting or even into yourself. There are certain activations we'll get into in tomorrow's work with Kathara level 2, that there's 2 Masters Kundalini activations involved in Kathara level 2. They're called the Amethyst Awakening and the Emerald Awakening. And they amplify your body's ability to hold and more rapidly accelerate the currents, the 12-dimensional currents, but also beginning to bring in the subharmonics of the Kira-shaped primary light fields. That's the stuff we'll do tomorrow. When we do it tomorrow, we're going to use this technique where we end up with the balls in the hands for specific induction. Once you get the balls in your hands, you can actually make little tiny balls come out your fingertips for very specific induction if you want to put that frequency in a very specific place. When we do the activations, the Kundalini activations on ourselves, you would do it at the tailbone to release the seals. You would simply build it here, pull it down in the hands, and transfer it in the tailbone to release that seal. It would work even better than trying to run it down the main vertical current, because you're coming in at a different angle. So we will use this not only in client facilitation healing, but in general healing for ourselves or work on ourselves. There's the direct induction, which means making the frequency balls in the palms and then putting them somewhere. Then there's non-specific induction, which is something that anybody that's going to do the round tables workshop, which seems to be most people, this is going to be occurring naturally. Your own higher levels of consciousness are going to create a situation where you are becoming a transmitter. You will be doing non-specific induction, which means that ball of energy that you form, that's going to form by activating the currents in your heart chakra, is going to start transmitting. This is what, if a person can hold a lot of frequency and they have the DNA activation to do it and not just give lip service to it, where they can literally create like a group healing or something because they transmit energy this way. You can clear a room this way. You can, if you have really strong fields and have pulled a lot of frequency, You can clear 100 miles of good space this way by projecting it this way. It's right directly from your astral level, from your D4 astral level of being, directly into D3. So there are times when, especially if you become in a situation, let's say, this usually applies to people that are involved with becoming requisite cloister ministers, where you're giving ordinations to other people, which means you're learning to transmit frequencies that other people need to have activation of those crystal seals to help expedite your own spiritual integration process and the inactivation process. There are times when you would use this type, when we do the ordinations to activate the crown chakra and the pineal gland to accelerate things. We use these. There are other times. I remember the first time they asked me to do ordinations. Well, I said, well, anybody wants to have an ordination, they even told me to offer this. There was 60 people in that audience, and I figured, maybe 5 out of the 60 even interested. Because I didn't even have a chance to explain much about what it was. By the end of the program, 59 of the 60 people wanted to be ordained, and we had 20 minutes left before we had to be out of the room. That time, we actually went way over time, and I did each one of them one by one, because I couldn't hold the frequency yet to transmit it fully this way, so we had to do it with the hands, one at a time. I felt like I was going to die by the last person. I was like, I collapse now. After that, my body got stronger, where I could hold more frequency, and they took me into, okay, if you have 20 people that want ordinations, you can do it in the non-specific induction. So you can do ordinations, but you can do healings this way too. Sometimes you can actually do a sweep projection, which will put a lot of energy into somebody's field, rather than just little specific areas that will be appropriate. And you can feel out for yourself, because every situation is different. We can't give you a list in the book, because the list would be 5 books of, well, in this situation, what would you do? Would you direct or indirect or that kind of thing? This is something that there's a part of you that knows. Do you use it this way, or do you transmit it this way? Simply take the time to say, okay, self, which feels right for this application. So we'll be learning how to use those two things. When we use the direct induction, that's when this becomes important. That's when the palms become important. And it becomes very important for when you really want to just pull the current, like this in this instance straight at phase 1, and you don't want to mix it with three-dimensional current. Very important to put the left palm over the back of the right hand to keep that chakra from pulling any other current into it. So what you're getting coming out the palm is what you want, not a contaminated frequency. Okay, there are the basics. The whole technique, now all these techniques are contained word for word in your manuals. So what you don't catch here, you have plenty of time to play with. You can even put them on tape or whatever. And with the, I don't know if we have them here. Michael, do we have them separate? Oh, we do, finally. Okay, good, I'm so glad. Michael has recently put all the techniques on audio tape. So we have them for people that want them. Okay, great, I haven't even seen them. We're so busy. These things. For people who have been asking about the stuff in the boxes that's back there that they don't know what it is. We're going to have some of the products that we have available out tomorrow, like the close of the workshop. We didn't want to have it distracting people in the meantime. But these tapes go through all the techniques that are in this book, so you can get them, or you can read them on your own tapes. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. We're not here for home tapes, but it's very helpful to have it in audio form, so you can put it on and run the currents. After you do that for a while with these, you will be able to simply say, Duridic 1 now, and it will happen. You'll feel the shift happen. And then you'll be able to amplify. You can go increase octave, and it will jump up to a D7 current once you activate that high. So these are the potentials. What you have to go through that looks a lot like work right now is just the beginning. The work gets easier and easier and becomes automatic because your body knows how to do this. This is a natural function of your body. Right? So we're going to do technique 3. Phil's going to work us through that one. There's another graph that's on page 177 that shows you kind of the steps of it, which will be more useful to you after you run through the technique than if I explain it to you first. These are like little summaries of the steps. Once you go through the steps, then you can look at this and see, oh, that was step A, that was step B, I see what I did. Okay. Now this just shows you that you're running current. That's page 95 on the graphics. If you just stick that up for a minute. On the top ones. Yeah. I just want you to see is, this is the dynamic that's taking place. You're running frequency this way, you're collecting it there, and you're running it down. That's the whole energy system, the connection of circuits that you're opening and making. So you not only have this stuff happening in the heart chakra, running down the arms and into the palms of the hand, you have that main vertical current and your heart shield activated to pull, so you have a continual supply of energy. You can use this, now what we're teaching you to do it in the palms and things, this is so you can assist or facilitate other people. You can also, if part of the body hurts, activate your current and do direct induction with it. Like, you know, if the knee hurts, run it into your knee for a little bit. The D4 frequency run on a D12 subharmonic, which is what you get when you run any of these with the pale silver current, will simply reorder whatever the problem is. If it's a virus, if it's a cut on your skin, whatever it is, it will set the natural D12 template. Now, what you can work with a derivative phase 1 current, it is a D4 current. It is a D4 current that contains the full subharmonics up to 12. So you can fix things that are controlled by Kathara center 4 and down, chakra 4 and down. But there are certain levels that this current wouldn't be strong enough to fix the template on. But this is the first current you need to be able to learn to draw. The next one, we begin to get into activating the higher currents when we do the sequence of activations in the Emerald Amethyst Awakening. In fact, we wouldn't have gotten the Emerald Amethyst Awakening procedures and the full procedures that we're using now if the planet wasn't having a problem right now. There's probably about 4 chapters we could have gone between this and the activations we'll be doing tomorrow. But because it's extremely important right now that we all get our frequency up as high as we can and hold as much frequency as we can, there's a reason for this. If we don't, our bodies are going to start to react to the grids, because there's an acceleration in the planetary grids across the board that's taking place to try to get the vortices on the planet up to a high enough frequency where certain groups cannot come in and do any more damage. We have until 2003 to get this done, so there's a major grid amplification happening, which means your DNA may be very glad to activate to a 5th or 6th strand by 2009. Well, now it's got to the end of 2002 to get there. You know what I mean? So we're all going to be getting a kick with this. The frequencies that we'll learn tomorrow to run, there's a bunch of other ones in between that normally we learn to run first. With building this, and then connecting it with the others, and loosening the right crystal seals in the body, you can stimulate the others into activation. After we activate the things tomorrow, the Emerald and Amethyst Awakenings, you will be able to run any of the currents that you saw on that list before. So instead of having to learn Derivative phase 1, Derivative phase 2, Derivative phase 3, for the next 12 years, you can pick one a year and play with it. You will be able to run those frequencies. The chart that's in there that shows you what combinations of colors, just like we use the pale silver with the violet and the green to run Derivative phase 1, those color combinations are shown on that chart that was somewhere back here. After you do the activations tomorrow, you will be able to run any ones in those spectrums up to D12. 148. This was a special gift born out of necessity. What's the top page? What's the top page? 85, so I have a running sequence on the bottom. Thank you. Alright, so you can put that back up just for a second so you can refresh the memory. These are the currents. I'll show you the currents that you will be able to run after the activations that we do tomorrow. These are also activations that you can transmit to other people to assist them in not necessarily becoming a healer to run those currents, but to be able to hold those currents in their bodies. People can come to you to have an Emerald Awakening. An Amethyst Awakening you can teach people to do on themselves for their own density 5 level of self-control of the process, their own Rishi level. That's even beyond the crystal level, the Rishi level will control it. You can't determine whether you're going to give somebody an Amethyst Awakening or not. Because if you did and you misjudged, you could blow them up. Okay? So your own higher consciousness regulates those frequencies. Now, the frequencies you're going to be able to run as of tomorrow in the same process as they're learning the anchoring frequency, which is the Derivative phase 1 we're doing today. You'll be able to do all the Derivative currents on this list. You'll be able to do the Turk currents on this list. And you'll be able to begin running the subharmonics which means some of the sub-frequency bands, but not yet the full spectrum of the currents, because the planetary grids aren't running the full spectrum of the currents yet. But you will be able to run the Maharic currents, and portions of ones that aren't even listed here yet, which are the Kira-shaped primal light field currents. And if you were an indigo, which you probably wouldn't be in this room if you weren't an indigo child, which means you have more than 12 strands to play with, you'll be able to bring in partial portions of the Kundalini. It's called the Kundalini. The words come from the sound tones, the audible translation of the vibration. So they're not words that somebody sits around and makes up. They're technical translations, as I find kind of funny sometimes. The Kundalini is a primal sound field. It's a standing wave current of sound that comes down around and through your body when you activate it. It's the most powerful current in the universe. You first run subharmonics of it. Nobody can run the full thing. It would just blow up the world if the planet tried to pull the whole thing in, right? These are the frequencies to run major roundtables. So if we were going to be able to help this planetary grid recoding process, or restoration of the Christos template in the planetary grids, somebody was going to have to be able to run the Kundalini currents. That's what the indigos came in to do. That's why you would be drawn to a workshop like this where this information is even available. So the processes you're going to learn now are the beginning process. If you didn't do this, you wouldn't be able to anchor any of the rest of it. By the time you leave these workshops, between the two of them especially, your body's not going to know what hit it. Wow. New stuff, new frequency. What is that? When you go back, there's a couple things that happen. When you go into a workshop and you're with a bunch of people who are raising frequency at the same time, it creates a nice, comfy, balanced grid. Then everybody goes their own way, splits apart, and you're back to the vibration that you were in before you came. You're no longer in that nice little bubble of group field protection. Then you may find very strange feelings in relation to your old atmosphere. You may find you immediately just get really tired, and whatever high you got from the main frequency, it just went out the window, and all you want to do is sleep. You may get the opposite. Weird, man. I have so much frequency I can't stand it. My house feels too small for you. What am I stealing? Shrink? You start to get the Alice in Wonderland feeling, like you're too big for your life now. Like your hologram didn't catch up with you yet, and you almost feel claustrophobic in your life, and you look around and go, can I rearrange my living room? Will that help? And you realize that no matter what you rearrange, it isn't going to fix it, because there's a change coming that goes with the new frequency. So there's some new effects that you may have. You may have certain things come to you while you're here. Oh, I get that. All right. You feel a certain burst of enthusiasm. Go home and you go, what did they do? Went back in Ireland. Where'd they go? I know there was something there and I forget what it was, or I misplaced it. Where there's sort of a whole bunch of weird emotions you can go through after you've run high frequency, particularly with group support, and then all of a sudden you're back into your own space again. You're growing, is what's happening. You're raising in frequency. Once you open those frequencies in the body, they will gently take on a life of their own as your higher consciousness guides you in the process. But it's not always a happy, joy process. It's not always, I'm floating on clouds because now I'm an enterprise consciousness. That's called detachment. Detachment like that is not integration. Detachment means I'm going to send my astral body up here so I feel all spacey and happy all the time, totally disengage my emotional body down here where it becomes a really bad evil twin that can come up like me if I'm not careful, right? And completely sever in the middle where you have no idea that you have to. This is what a lot of people are doing in the New Age movement. They get really buzzy and high energy and they get into a space where they react differently to things. And they say, oh, well, masters react this way to things. They don't get involved with it. Excuse me. Masters get fully and passionately engaged, but totally in the world, but not of it at the same time. They can fully interact with the drama and feel every range of emotion move through them. And they can become that emotion. Sometimes they raise their voice, sometimes they giggle, sometimes they feel the heaviness of the world upon them. It's not that they don't feel those things anymore and went numb. That's what the other guys were trying to pretend they're Ascended Masters do. What they do is come to a state of knowing that all is in divine right order, that these are experiences, that they are not negative or positive. They are experiences. Some feel better than others, so I prefer to put my consciousness there. There's a whole different reaction than detachment. You don't want to detach. What that means is you're not integrated. And when you go home, you may kind of, with people alone, but after you have certain activations, There will be clearing cycles, not hard, awful ones, but you may have body aches. They won't last forever. They'll cycle. Now you're going to get this with or without this program. You're going to get those aches and pains. And you may even get diseases if you're not using this program. It's preparing your DNA template for what's going to come through the grids. There's the hard way and the easy way to go through DNA activation. The easy way is learning enough to know what to activate in your body and what to clear to go through the little aches and pains and irksome parts. That's the master's way. Knowing it's not always going to be exactly how you really wish it was. You can wake up, yes, you can have a headache. You can have a 3-week headache if your pineal's activating. You can have a backache for 2 months if you're having the sacral seals released. You can have your back go out of whack by this stuff. It's gentle, and as long as you're doing it in sequence with your higher consciousness, you're not just trying to grab a bunch of power and see what you can do with it, like playing the magic games that a lot of people like to use the sex magic, the Kundalini, see what you can do with it. They're asking for trouble with that stuff. I'm trying to prepare you before you start activating these things to be aware. I'm a responsible teacher, and I'm not going to say that you will get no effects from these things. What I am going to say is the effects you will get from consciously running these currents and preparing your body to do them will be 1,000,000% lighter than what would happen to your body if you didn't clear your grids while the planetary grids are activating underneath you. You'll begin to see more and more of this effect as we move toward the year 2012. This is when the stargates are to be fully open as they cycle, as they're opening cycle. Between 2012 and 2017, they enter the full-blown everyone opens. There's going to be so much frequency flying through the planetary grids. It's going to make a lot of people sick unless there's enough indigos on the planet to get their act together, get activated, and create critical mass flip over where it activates everybody else despite themselves. Which means our fields have the power because we carry so much frequency as indigos. We have not just 12 strands, but all those extras turn frequency on. We can create critical mass, a small group, create critical mass that has enough energy to create the same activations and the same clearance in the people that have nothing to do with the work, which means they can be prevented from ending up with accelerated cancer rates or heart attacks or respiratory problems or all sorts of things that are going to be amplified when the frequency kicks up progressively in grids. So we're helping to heal the planet as we work with these. But I want you to be aware that this is an illusion that you can have a real rude awakening from. When you start to realize, ow, that hurts, my back still hurts, or oh God, I'm cycling, I think I'm going to explode. I have so much frequency, you get hot. Sometimes you get hot. Or people will stand next to you, what is wrong with you? Okay, you have fever, you have to get a thermometer. You'll get effects that science has never witnessed here. So if you go to doctors that don't know anything about this and say, fix me, God knows what they'll try. Because they don't know what to do with it either. You will have hormone fluctuations, guaranteed. Because the Kundalini and the hormones are directly connected to each other. If you realize that these are part of it, you're not going to go into some illusion of thinking, now I'm just going to sail around in a cloud of Christ consciousness and never ever be affected by anything uncomfortable again because I'm a master. You will progressively get toward mastery at your level, but it sometimes is work. I go through periods of time. Michael's gone through periods of time. Phil's gone through periods of time. Everybody I've known that with or without this program is doing DNA activations. They look at each other as like a club. It's like the Survivors Club at a war memorial. How are you doing this month? Oh, it's been a really good move. Back to wow. I've only had about 20 headaches instead of 60. I'm doing really good. I'm not an emotional maniac this month. Last month when I was cycling on strand 2 and my emotional body was clearing, I didn't even know what the heck it was. I mean, things were setting me off, and I stand back and look at myself and go, oh no, not again. Right? There are changes that move through your energy as you integrate spiritually. You don't have to do the activations. These things are going to come your way with or without us. Okay? This will give you a way of understanding what it is and working with it, where you're activating things in sequence. So when it's time for strand 2 to cough up its little miasms, to clear it out, so your emotional body can begin to get back into the D12 pattern, so your physical body, which is below it, stands a chance of holding D12 frequency.
you'll realize, that kind of feeling of agitation and fatigue is an emotional feeling. That means strand 2, that means chakra 2. You can begin to soothe it by running a higher frequency for chakra 2. You can recognize it for what it is, not thinking you're losing your mind, because everything in your life bothers you today. I mean, there may be times when you can literally get so bugged, just agitated by, you start to see all the icky stuff that's wrong with your life. All the things you wished you forgot that you really wanted to do that you didn't do, and you feel like, I'm going to just move out of my life and create a new one. These are all sorts of things that will kick up in your emotional body as you clear. And you'll balance. If you don't get caught in the tide like a tidal wave that runs over you and takes you and you end up in a Tahiti in a nice little hut because you have no money left and no family, because you left it all behind because you're on an emotional tangent. You can go on emotional tangents and make really bad decisions when you're doing activations. If you're aware that this is a potential, and it's funny, it's a funny potential if you realize it's not to be scared of, because you're the master. What you do with your mind will determine what happens when that emotional body clears. If you say to yourself, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible, you're amplifying it with a deep root frequency, you're making it worse, you're going to make it stronger, you're feeding it. If your mind, your mental body, has enough strength and awareness and knowledge to say, that's my emotional body. Oh, that's my feeling. It may be anger, it may be sorrow, it may be rage, it may be laughing hysterically for no apparent reason. These are things that as your emotional body is harmonizing to the D12 frequencies, it will find its own balance. So you need to know you're not going crazy. You need to know repressing it is not the idea. I refuse to acknowledge that emotion. No, that's going to build up and create a pressure cooker, which is going to make it worse. It's also important to know you don't take it out on everybody else around you. If you're having a bad day, that's your bad day. Keep it. Okay? Be responsible enough to keep it. And it can be very hard sometimes, particularly the people closest to you. You may want to bite them just because you know you can and they'll still love you. If you want to bite somebody, you can't go bite the neighbor because you might end up in jail or something. But, you can scream at your cat. Because the cat's still going to be there. But it doesn't make the cat feel very good. It helps a lot to realize we are responsible whether we want to be or not. And it can be tough. You think, I already have pretty good control over my emotions. I don't lose my temper and really beat people up. Or, I don't, just bring my spouse up in the closet and beat her with sticks or beat him with sticks because I lost my temper. I have control of myself. If you feel you have complete control over your emotional body, be very gentle with how you phrase that judgment to yourself. Because you may give yourself a lesson that blows your mind. Where you just, oh my God, what just hit me? And if you have a real strong need to control your emotional body, and you find it escaping on you, you can go into feeling horrible about yourself. This is where you need to be kind to yourself. And you need to realize, I'm telling you these things before we do the activations, because they're going to come up with the planetary grids, which is why it's probably going to get very weird politically in our world in the next 3 to 10 years. People's emotional bodies are going to be kicking up in chaos, and if you don't know how to direct it, there's a lot of not happy emotions out there already. It can cause a lot of problems. I want you to realize what's happening, not only in your own self, but in the world as you watch. To realize there's a healing happening, but it's happening chaotically because they don't know how to stabilize frequency. There's one piece of this world that you can fix by the choices you make, and that's you. And as an indigo with a huge amount of frequency capacity, if you stabilize your fields and you find a pattern that you can let the emotion clear itself, but not get it run over by it, you're setting a pattern that becomes available in the astral level to all the other people out there, that they can latch onto that pattern, literally from this shared emotion. If you're feeling fatigue and a person a million miles away is feeling fatigue, we're in the same species. Those fatigue imprints will connect with each other. But if you have taken that fatigue and moved it to a higher space, you give them a bridge. So in helping yourself, you're helping the other people. But you do need to realize that sometimes it can be not fun to grow spiritually. It is not always like love and happy parties with angels. Sometimes it's taking responsibility for saying, oh yeah, I'm in an energy system here that's been so messed up for so long, because the planet is. This will take some work. You need to be kind to yourself, kind to others around you, no matter how awful you feel. That doesn't mean you have to go out of your way and bend over backwards to do what everybody wants you to do to be martyred. Simply saying, yes, I could scream at you right now. I'll go bite you. a pillow instead. If you need to, pound your pillow. If you need to, have a bunch of stuff on. If you go into crying jags for no reason, don't think you're hitting that menopause thing, okay? If you're 20, if you're 30, if you're 70, what am I doing? Second menopause? It's hormone changes that are kicking up the emotional body. It will stabilize, and your mind will be the director of that. There's a lot you can do. Fighting it will make it worse. Getting negative about it. Saying, this is a horrible condition, it will last forever, I can't stand this, I've got to stop it, I've got to run away. You can run. You're stuck in the body until you do something with it. You can't run away from it. You simply relax. I'm going to be real gentle on myself right now. Oh my goodness, look at this stuff moving through me. I can't detach enough to let it move through me. Where's my pillow? You have to go back to the pillow. Or if you've got a punching bag, it comes out, not tears, it comes out, anger, right? Get a punching bag. If you have to, beat on your punching bag. Realize you're healing. This energy has to come out. You cannot activate, you cannot integrate spiritually while these disharmonic patterns are stuck inside you. But you're going to make it worse if you take it out on the people around you and tell your boss to stick it, and tell your spouse to leave, and tell your children you can't stand them because of things they did in the last 40 years that you couldn't stand, and you're really sad they grew up to be who they were because you were hoping for better. If you take it out on the people around you, you're going to create consequences. Okay? Consequences that once you get back into being who you really are, which is much more stable than that. There's just a phase of healing you're going through. You're going to go, oh dear, what did I do? And then there's going to be like, will you talk to me? I really didn't mean it. And you're going to try to explain the inactivation to somebody who doesn't want to hear it. The damage will be done. So if you're aware of the potential that could happen, and realize you have the ability to direct that energy, and that's what it is. It's not a judgment about you. It's not saying you're not a control maniac because your emotional body is kicking up and going crazy right now. It's saying, I'm in the middle of an energy process, a process of healing that's extremely important because it's going to allow me to be the best that I possibly can be. And that's how I can best help anybody, including myself. Be kind to you. Don't ever judge your value or your worthiness or your ability to be a master. You are a master. It's just awakening to the rest of what that means. If you go into negative ego mind, which is letting the culturally programmed ideas that tell you you're limited, you're lower, that you're abnormal for going through these things. If you start to see things, by the way, don't go to a psychiatrist. They'll have you run something to keep you happy. For a while, they'll block your DNA from now until eternity. You may start getting, not just emotional body stuff, you may start getting visions. Little ones that may mean nothing, big ones that just terrify you, because you're seeing like cataclysmic world-ending visions and all sorts of stuff. First of all, if you get cataclysmic world-ending visions, don't assume necessarily that they're true for you, for here. Remember, it could be a probability that isn't the one we're moving into. So you don't fixate and get paranoid about them. Oh my God, it's all going to end, it's not going to, can't fix it, that kind of stuff. These are mental mastery skills that if you're going to be an interdimensional traveler and an interdimensional master, you must take the time to develop the mental body. You have to appoint it, you give it a hat, and you say, you are captain of the things below you. That means physical body, and it means especially the emotional body. Because right now, people in our societies are running with it going the other way around. The emotional body is carrying a stronger charge than the mental body. The mental body is suppressed, and the emotional body is directing people into chaos. It's not supposed to be that way, and it's a choice. If you recognize that, it's not supposed to work that way. This isn't in my benefit. You can make choices. Every idea you put in your head, everything you say to yourself, every thought you think, is an energy pattern, which is an electromagnetic, mathematical, scalar grid that's telling your emotional body to do something, and your physical body. The words you choose, words are powerful, powerful sound patterns. The words you choose to look at a scenario, you look at this and say, well, looks like this to me. Then ask yourself, that's an observation I made. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. It looks like this to me. Right now, does this serve me to hold this perception? Learn to slow your mind down enough to catch and see what it's doing. It's called becoming mindful, where you become aware of what you're allowing your minds to do. Right now, we all tend to run them up. We let our minds just go wherever they want to. They direct the emotional body wherever we want to. We sit somewhere in between, kind of saying, oh, that feels good, that doesn't move, it feels awful, where'd that come from? A master controls the thought patterns, not rigidly, but with awareness. Awareness that if I hold this thought that my neighbor's a rotten, lousy, miserable person, I really don't like him. I'm going to be nice and pretend that I really like him, but I really don't. You're going to put out a thought pattern that brings out the absolute worst in your neighbor, and everybody else on the street might think your neighbor is the most wonderful, saintly person, but when that neighbor interacts with you, the neighbor will be mean. Because you set an intention by your judgment. Become aware of what you're judging. Okay? When you think about playing with our stargates, we get really, really mad, especially after tomorrow when you find out what they really did here and how we've been suffering for it for 25,000 years. You can get angry. Anger is good as long as it motivates you to something positive. It's a fleeting emotion that's meant to lead you to something higher. Compassion and understanding consciousness that gets so twisted in on itself that it can't even hold the ability to love anymore is a compassion. It's a sad thing. The desire, this is a being that needs healing. We need to understand these things, and we need to become aware of our choices. Mental choices. Your mind, right here, you have all those other stacks of identity levels that we talked about. Out of all of those identity levels, there is one key to ever being able to embody them here in this lifetime. And that key is your three-dimensional mental body facility, which is the part of you that's right here. Your subconscious mind is located in your second strand, in your second chakra area, and part of it in your first. You will be able to bring up and heal what's stored in that imprint if you learn to master what you're doing with your conscious mind. So simply, try to take time and ask yourself, catch yourself, what am I thinking right now? Oh, good question, what am I thinking? I think so often I don't even realize I'm thinking, because what the first answer is, becoming mindful. Sometimes that means, if you have to do the dishes, go and do the dishes. Don't think about a million things. Focus on Zen. Go into the Zen of it, where you become just aware and you won't let your mind go anywhere else. You're learning mental control, where you can point the focus of your attention. Look at the dish. The only thing in your whole universe in that moment is the dish, the water, the soup. It's everything forever, right now. It's a mindset. Play these games with your mind. You're learning to focus. It's like a camera lens. You can go this way with it, which we're usually in this state. We leave it on like this expanded thing and just take it all in, and we get very fuzzy pictures a lot of the times. It's learning to open the lens, or bring it into a laser beam focus. Learning to control what the mental body is doing. This little side lecture that I don't always put in, but it just came, it was part of this tonight. Especially because we already been told yesterday that in Ireland and in England, about a little bit later in England and in Ireland, within 3 weeks there's going to be major grid activations going on here. Which means your emotional body is going to come up and say, hi, whether or not you're ready for it. If you start seeing weirdness in your family and friends, have some compassion and realize, no, they're not flipping out, but if they're acting a little weird or getting high-strung or hyper about stuff, this is the grid activation. It's affecting them. Now that you know this, you can possibly not get caught in it and be an agent of helping them. They might not want to hear about DNA, but you can basically run your own heart seal and transmit that indirect induction out the heart chakra. Activate the heart seal, build a ball, just the pale silver alone, just from the heart. So you don't have to go through all the processes of activating the real heart, which you don't need to for this. Just bring in the heart frequency. And every breath, feel a bubble of it, expanding out toward them, whoever they are, that you can see is going to create a conflict with you. And you're going to get caught in it if you don't be careful, Because it'll trigger your own pattern. If somebody's being unfair to you, you feel unfair, and you're going to go, and end up in a disharmonic exchange. We can get in lots of these, as we are all going through activations. And the heart frequency, simply projected from the heart center, is sending a blanket of the heart frequency toward them, to their astral level. It's harmless, and their Christos level, their own Christos level will help you. It's giving an anchor, so their Christos level can connect with them. So it'll help to harmonize them. It'll help to harmonize you. Whenever you get into a space where you feel awful and you can't figure out what's bothering you, these are some of the feelings you will get with activations. Not just these, but the grid activations. The heart frequency. Surround yourself. What I do sometimes, and I've had some really bad activation cycles before I had the open knowledge of what all of this was about, because a lot of it was on security points. I was simply feel so awful and so overwhelmed by all of it, because my life is really strange. I mean, I have little things popping out of my mirror half the time. I mean, it's like a really wild life. It's incredibly normal. It's like normal. I'm glad that I was normal, but not for this time frame. I used to, and I still do, if I feel sick or if I'm drained or exhausted, or something's upsetting me, but I don't know how to shift immediately. Imagine yourself, activate your current, and imagine yourself, and I usually go overnight, like, kind of get under the covers so I feel nice and safe in the bed. Build a bubble, pale silver light around you, and in your auric field, and just build it. And you can start to feel this thing, where you feel like you're in a cocoon, like a little worm that's going to be a butterfly when it comes out. Nothing can touch you in there. And I have found whenever the emotions kick up in a way you don't like, you can actually go past the point of even needing to like beat on your pillow or cry into it. You can go into your heart bubble. You can, this is me, the source with me. All the other things you can deal with. First, let's calm down. It's okay. We're safe. It's okay. You need to learn to talk to yourself. Now, I'm going to hand you over to Phil, who's very good at reading these things, because I want us to have time to activate the currents, and it's probably running late. Not too bad. What we're going to do after we activate the currents is we're going to tear off. Anybody bring blankets to lay on today? Oh, good. I didn't see a whole lot of hands. Is anybody not?
Can't take a photo. What did you say?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a little borrowing thing. They're kind of asking Christos level of people who own your stuff, and they understand it's for a good purpose. No, I'm not stealing it. No, I'm washing it. You want me to before I bring it back? Why did I put it in a garbage bag and take it out and bring it back? I mean, you know what I mean? Just don't get caught, because technically that would be considered stealing, but to me, it's not stealing if you're actually asking, you're not harming it, you're going to bring it back. All right? It may not be the ideal. Ideally, you would have something if you could go out and buy one. Yes, that would be even more morally correct. But you're not going to get hung by a noose, and you're not going to go to hell because you borrowed a blanket on a hotel room because you needed something to lay on, so when you were doing your heart shield and exercises, you didn't, I mean, excuse me, look at what you're doing for the planet, sir. Okay? We can get over here. I'm sorry, we borrowed your blanket. Crucify me. Okay. So, we're going to do technique 3.
Yeah. I think we were afraid they would give us a belt for flying if they went to the day. What?
What we're going to do, we're going to combine technique 3 and 4. That means you're going to activate your current. Then we're going to go to technique 4, where you're going to amplify that current in a way that increases your audio and visual inner perceptions. And then you're going to go into a technique that's called a Kathara grid scan, where if a person came to you, or yourself came to you, for Kathara healing, it gives you a basic way of looking at your Kathara grid, or theirs, with the higher sensory amplified vision. And you may not get pictures, you may get a see-feel, where you feel it there even though you don't quite see it yet. You're going to be able to see where the areas in the Kathara grid are that are holding the most distortion right now. Okay, so we're going to go from activating the currents to going through the amplifying currents to bring up the inner eyes and the inner ears, and then going in to be able to see or scan a Kathara grid in you or somebody else to see what areas need most running of the Mahara frequency. And then we're going to go from that into pairing off. So kind of like before we do this, can we kind of like pick a pair, pair off into twos? You'll run this stuff by yourself. But we're going to go right from here into working with the client session, where one person's going to be, and it's going to play the facilitator, and the other is going to play the client, and you're going to switch off. You're going to learn how to run, use the hand positions to run the frequency. So we're going to go through those as a chain of techniques, and we're going to go into where you would run the frequency for someone else. So you get the feeling of what that means. And then you will switch off with your partner, and whoever's client will play facilitator, and vice versa. This way, you get to feel what it feels like to have somebody run it on you. You also get to feel what it feels like to be the person who's running it. So you get a little experience with both. Now this is always, 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 always done through a Mahara seal. Never ever make a field link of energy with anybody without a Mahara seal, because you will take on their energy pattern and they will take on yours, and you'll be sharing miasms from now into eternity. Okay? So that's going to be the procedure. If you have just know who you're going to